In today's lesson, we'll be learning the sine law. In a previous lesson, we learned that the sine law can tell us an unknown angle or an unknown side. In the sine law, lowercase a represents the length of side A, while lowercase b represents the length of side B, and lowercase c represents the length of side C. Meanwhile, capital A represents angle A over here, capital B represents angle B over here, and capital C represents angle C right over here. In our first example, we want to find this unknown angle. Before we begin, let's finish labeling this diagram. This side would be lowercase a, this side would be lowercase b, and this side would be lowercase c. Now we can replace some of these variables with numbers. Instead of lowercase a, I can replace that with 11.1. Meanwhile, uppercase A is what we're looking for, so let's just leave that alone. Next, lowercase b can be replaced with 5.8. So I'm going to write 5.8 right over here. And afterwards, uppercase b can be replaced with 31 degrees. So I'm going to rewrite this as sine 31. Over here, lowercase c, we don't really know what lowercase c is, so let's just leave it alone. And last, uppercase c, again, we don't know what it is, so let's just leave it as is. If you remember, we're looking for angle A. And angle A is right over here in this fraction, so that means for sure we're going to be using that fraction. But what about these two fractions? Which one am I going to be using? Well, it is more useful to use the fraction that has more information in it. This one doesn't have any information in it, while this one has information in the top and the bottom. So for sure, we're going to be using that fraction as well. I'm going to recopy 11.1 and sine A, since I don't know what A is. Afterwards, I'm going to rewrite 5.8. At this point, you want to put sine 31 into your calculator, and you should get approximately 0.52. At this point, we'll want to cross multiply, which means we're going to multiply the numbers that are connected, and then we're going to divide by the leftover number. I'm going to show you that calculation on the side. So I'm going to take 11.1, I'm going to multiply it by 0.52, and then I'm going to divide by 5.8. When you do that calculation, you get a really strange answer. You get an answer of 0.995. Now, there's no way this angle over here is 0.995 degrees, which means we're going to have to use this button on our calculator. Now, depending on the type of calculator you have, you're either going to have to press the second button, the inverse button, or the shift button before getting this button. Again, depending on your calculator, you're either going to have to put this number in first, then press this button, or press this button first, then put this number in. Either way, when you do that, you should get an angle of about 84.3 degrees. Therefore, this unknown angle is approximately 84.3 degrees. In our second example, we want to find this unknown angle. Before doing any calculations, let's finish labeling this diagram. This would be lowercase a, this would be lowercase c, and this would be lowercase b. Let's replace some of the variables in our sine law with numbers. Instead of writing lowercase a, I'm going to replace it with the number 13. And angle A is actually what we're looking for. So let's just leave that alone. Lowercase b is unknown as well. So let's just leave that alone. Furthermore, angle B is unknown as well. So we're going to leave that alone. Over here, lowercase c can be replaced with the number 16. And angle C can be replaced with the number 65 degrees. So I'm going to rewrite that as sine 65. If you remember, we're looking for angle A, and angle A is right over here. So that means for sure we're going to be using this fraction. We have two fractions left. Are we going to be using this fraction or are we going to be using this fraction? Since we're looking for an unknown, it is more useful to be using something that has more information than something that has less information. Over here, we have both numbers in the top and bottom. Over here, we have nothing. So that means we're going to be using this fraction. The 13 has not changed, so I'm not going to do anything with it. Sine A is what we're looking for, so I'm not going to change that as well. 16 is not going to change, so I'm going to leave it alone. But what about sine 65? Well, you can put that into your calculator and you should get something close to 0.91. This should look very familiar to you at this point. We'll want to solve this with cross multiplication. The numbers that are connected are going to get multiplied, so I'm going to take 13, I'm going to multiply it by 0.91, and then I'm going to divide by the leftover number, which was 16. Now, when you do the calculation on the side, you'll get something that looks like this, 0.739. But there's no way this angle is 0.739 degrees, which means we're going to have to use this button, the sine inverse button. To access it, you're going to have to either press the second button, the inverse button, or the shift button before using this. It depends on what calculator you're using. You're either going to have to put in the number first and then press this button, or press this button first and then put this number in afterwards. In either case, it should give you an angle of about 47.6 degrees. Therefore, angle A is approximately 47.6 degrees.